Yes, yes. So the factory system in America came about simply because of a large boom in the American economy and a large increase in material shipping directly after the War of 1812. Due to this great increase in canals and roadways, American companies could now move goods long distances and all over the world for very low prices. This is what truly started the whole industrialization of America and led to the creation of the factory system. So as we look back on how the factory systems began, we can narrow it down primarily to one man, Francis Cabot Lowell. After traveling around Britain, he brought back detailed sketches of their manufacturing process and created textile machines in the US that were far superior to the Britons. This new manufacturing technology quickly became very profitable, and as people began to realize this, new factories popped up all over the United States. These new factories built up factory systems around them that were completely different from any manufacturing system that the US had ever seen before. So as these new manufacturers appeared, they built up their own towns around each factory in order to give their workers a place to live. These factory communities were a revolutionary idea during the day because they encouraged worker interactions and formed social groups surrounding their factories that made workers much more likely to stay with the company for long periods of time. These new factory systems were based around the ideas of producing large amounts of goods in order to make a very large profit. So they also allowed for an increase in the different types of things that could be manufactured in one location. So by having large communities built up around a single factory, the factory could easily produce many different things under one roof. So, for example, they could spin yarn, or they could actually weave full pieces of cloth all under one roof. So all of these different things combined to create the overall unified factory system that we now discuss today. These new factory systems introduced many new ideas, including wages, and effectively transformed the demographics of who could work and make money. The introduction of this new factory system changed many aspects of people's lives, including social, economic, and industry changes that will completely change the way that the world manufactured goods forever. Now back to you in the studio, Chris.
Factory workers are on strike once again to fight for a raise of their low wages and extremely long hours at the workbench. With no way around the new law preventing workers from creating labor unions to protect their rights, it's no wonder why these hard workers have laid down their tools and threatened to quit their jobs. Millions of rural Americans across the country have left their farms to work for factories that in exchange have given them small portion meals that are not enough to make up for having to tolerate some of the most unsanitary buildings that have little to no ventilation or lighting and absolutely no source of heat whatsoever.
I'm a 10-year-old girl working days on end for Thompson Skirt Factory without an education. At the factory, they rarely serve us meals that don't have enough food to help me and my bones grow correctly. If I get tired while working, they send me to the whipping rooms to force me to keep working.
Not much of a benefit, is it? And with half of America's factory workers being children, adult employees have felt the need to speak up for the overworked children who have no say-so. The few men behind it all that are ultimately benefiting from their workers' unhappy labor argued that shorter hours would lessen overall production, raise costs, and with too much free time on their hands, the devil would eventually lead them to evil. President Van Bruin has recently set the workday for all federal employees to 10 hours a day, but chronic diseases such as cholera, tuberculosis, typhus, and scarlet fever are becoming more and more common due to the overcrowding of factories, poor hygiene, and malnutrition. Children who become infected by these diseases or die while working with dangerous equipment are easily replaced with another child from one of the many local orphanages. Labor unions are also forming to put a stop to the long, hard hours with little pay. They are demanding an increase in wages and better overall treatment. These groups are also against the idea of children performing low-risk tasks with a high risk of injury.
This is Zain reporting from the scene from the textile factory. as you've seen, these women labor for many times, but they're proud to have this equal chance at work. I've been talking to these ladies here, and they all tell me they still have to do their work in the domestic sphere. It's really pulling their labor. When they get home from these long shifts, they still have to take care of their family. Cooking, cleaning, and weaving, it doesn't change their working here. The only thing that's really pulling on their labor, Chris, I've talked to these women, but for security reasons, they won't reveal themselves on camera. They're pretty glad to have this opportunity to make a wage, even if it isn't as much as their husbands. It's really giving them the dignity, and now they can speak for themselves. At least 3 of these kind women here have been able to choose their own husbands. Again, the work for them is kind of a blessing. They're not able to get this kind of advance anywhere else. And these textile factories are pretty safe. They're clean, there are no fumes. It's ideal work, but you have to watch out for the machines. As you can see, the machines go really fast and rotate quickly. Getting your finger can lead to disastrous effects. I mean, it does carry risk, and these machines are pretty stable. They're rhythmic, and sometimes they can become boring. Many women have lost fingers from absent-mindedness. Let's listen up. I mean, these factories are highly regulated, but these shifts can go from 10 to 14 hours. It's ridiculous, but these workers really can't complain. All these factory owners have their damn monopolies. That doesn't even talk about the children, about these same length shifts. I've talked to these women here, and their children also have to work these same length of shifts. And they get even the worst work. This textile mine is relatively safe. They have to work in coal mines and steel refineries. You can blame Bessemer for that. Those machines are absolutely brutal. They go fast and people have lost limbs. Even I had a hard time breathing there, and it was impossible for me to film near the refineries because of all the smoke. Folks, even the grown men have a problem dealing with those machines. Don't take it lightly. It's true that these factory workers can make nice buildings for them, but still intensely crowded. You're wrong. Take it from me, and I'm at the source. These factories are nice, and they're really empowering for the workers. Working conditions can be absolutely brutal.
The factory system was a capitalist form of production. This means that, one, when the factory system is implemented, the operative labor has generally has no part in the actual ownership of the company. All they do is help run it or are employed by the company. The capitalist owners provide all the machinery, the materials, the machinery, the materials, and the actual paying of the labor. The operative labor only works at the actual factory. This has like a general impact of showing that most of the public were going to factory systems just for labor. The one invention that affected the factory system the most was the steam engine. The invention of the steam engine meant that the factory systems were no longer limited to being located only near like water sources such as rivers, so that they would have a source of power. Now with the steam engine, they could now be located almost anywhere, because with like railroads, transportation of water or like materials to power those factories were like it was more efficient. And so now factories were more widespread, meaning that more people can go to a factory to work at it. The factory system had a big impact on industrialization, because previously all the materials that are made by skilled or high-skilled workers were now controlled exclusively, were now not necessary anymore. They were exclusively controlled by unskilled workers who can use machines or operate a simple machine to create the same product. This means that now that there's like now exclusive products that are only made by designer factories or like certain companies because they need a skilled worker could now be made on a larger scale by numerous people. This helped employment because now women, children, and anyone can work at a factory as long as they operate the machinery. Also, this also had a general big impact on employment of the factory system because now that the factories can be located anywhere, they had more needs of transportation to like not only transport materials to factories but away from factories as well. This means that like now workers were needed for transportation and actual production. The factory system helped further the economy a lot because now people could like all sorts of people can work. Now everyone's employed. This helped like move towards women's suffrage rights because now women weren't staying at home, they were also working in factories. It made them realize, oh, we're not getting paid the same as men, or we're not at the same level as men. And that inspired many of the early feminists into like going towards women's suffrage rights. And those are the industrial and social effects of the factory system.